you're all on the call tonight and all these people I'm sitting here having to let in. But I think I say it every time, I don't feel like Kristen needs an introduction here on our team. In case you are new, she is Kristen Boss. She is a business coach. She leads a podcast called Becoming Boss. I strongly recommend, if you are listening to podcasts, or even if you don't, to go check it out. I go and listen to it every time I have a quiet moment, or try to create a quiet moment here at the house. She also has the Social Selling Academy that a lot of us are in, and a lot of people are gleaning lots of good information there. So she'll probably tell you a little bit about that, but I'm going to let her go ahead and take the reins and share and click on speaker view. So go ahead, Kristen.
Awesome. Okay. Hey guys. All right. I was chuckling earlier when I got on. I hear my daughter belting out Frozen 2 at the top of her lungs above me. I'm trying to do this with a straight face. She's 3 years old and she's hosting her own concert right now. Okay. So as most of you know, I'm Kristen Boss, and I'm excited about what I'm going to talk to you guys about tonight. And it is about building your business on the right foundation. And foundation is so important in this business. And it's also, I feel like it can be tedious work, but it's necessary work. And oftentimes it is the most costly work. If you've ever known anything about building a home, or if the foundation in your home is compromised at all, what happens? The integrity of the entire structure is at risk. And so this is not something that is optional. This is not hey, I would strongly recommend. This is actually an essential, and it's a necessity in your business to really ensure that you have your business on a firm foundation, because this isn't about something that I'm very passionate about. This isn't about you guys building a business that pays you today, that pays you this month. It's about building a business that pays you 3 months from now, 4 months from now, 5 years from now. So if you want a sustainable business, you need to really build it on the right foundation. And that requires, and it's not fun. Doing the foundation, it is not, it's the least exciting work when you're building a house. Yeah, I want you to think of your business very much like a custom build, and you're imagining that beautiful mansion or that gorgeous house that you're going to be in someday, and you just want to start designing, you want to start thinking about the kitchen and the flooring and the paint color, and no one's excited about pouring concrete. No one's excited about hiring the engineer to see if the foundation is stable. But if we don't do that work, then the work we choose later, the house will come down, right? There's a parable about that. So this work tonight, it's going to be pretty introspective for you. I really want to challenge you as you are listening to me speak to you guys tonight. I want you to not think of anybody but you. I don't want you to think of your upline. I don't want you to think of your downline. I don't want you to think of your sideline. Oftentimes I think people are really tempted to be like, who really needs to hear this is my friend Cindy. She really could use some preaching here. I really want you to remove all thoughts of anybody else and take 100% responsibility for your business and where you are today. Because while, yes, you are in network marketing and you have uplines and downlines and sidelines, you are still your own business owner. And that means you are fully responsible for the results you create in your business. And I think a lot of times it's very easy for us to think, well, I'm here because my downline's not performing. They're not working. I'm here because my upline isn't there for me, or I have an inactive upline, or I have a check collector upline. If you have not listened to my podcast episode called Ownership, the Creative Lesson of Leadership, I really want to encourage you to listen to that this week, because you are in this unique business model. It's the best business model in the world. It is the business that allows you to build an income today with residual income for tomorrow. There's very few businesses that allow for this. So I really want you to really own the business you have stepped into, which means you are in a people business. You are working with people above you, below you, to the side of you. And when we work with people, it can get messy. But you are responsible for you tonight. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about you, and you are the foundation for your business. You are, not your downline. Not who you recruit, not what team you joined, not your company, you, your thoughts, and who you are, and the stories you tell yourself. So we're going to talk about that. Whether you have read the Bible before at all, there's this, or if it's a story you've heard a million times, it's a very valuable story. So I'm going to tell you, it's a parable about the sower and the seed. And we're going to talk about soil and how your foundation is very much like the soil of your business. And we're going to talk about the 5 different types of soils. And it's a great story because it is still the natural law of things. If you've ever gardened or weeded a garden in your life, I hate it. It's such hard work. Some people love it. They love the gratification of sweating in the sun and toiling and seeing the fruit of their labor. Some people really love that. Me, I'm like, can I hire it out? I hate it. I hate the blisters, the calluses. It's hard work. How many of you have ever prepped soil before? Like where you actually had to prep soil? It's horrible, right? Like you have to, I don't know about you, but sometimes where we tend to live, someone had laid xeriscape there before, so we have to pull up millions of tiny rocks, and we have to strain the good sand from the bad sand, and then we have to till the soil and loosen it up. Getting good soil is freaking hard work. You don't just come upon good soil, you have to work the earth, just like you have to work yourself to be good soil, to receive good seed in your business, because it is the foundation. You are the soil and you are responsible for it. It's going to take some work, okay? So in the story of the parable of the sower and the seed, it talks about the sower that's scattering seed around, right? And the seed lands on 5 different soils. And the first place it lands is on the path. And immediately the seed lands on the path, and what happens? The birds come in and they snatch up the seeds and they take it off and they leave. The seeds didn't really even have a chance to root or even get in the soil. It was just immediately snatched up by the birds. And then there was the next seed fell on rocky ground. It was rocks everywhere, obviously not good soil, and it allowed for the seeds to spring up quickly. They rooted a little bit and they sprung up, and then they withered and died. But they did spring up, but they withered and died. The next one is seeds that fell among the thorns. And as the seeds grew, they were actually started to be choked out by the weeds and the thorns that were surrounding it. So any growth, any chance it had for growth, it was choked out by what surrounded it. Okay, and then the last one is the seed that landed on good soil. And it was received, and with time and patience, not only did it yield fruit, it's in the story, it yields triple what was sown. And you all are in this business because you want to triple, you want to duplicate, you want to multiply your work. That is the beauty of this business model. And you cannot multiply if you have crappy soil. So we're going to talk about the first one, the seed that falls on the path, that's snatched up by the birds. And I think that is someone who receives it, but the dream is easily snatched away by the opinions of others. Or someone saying, what are you doing? You're doing the network marketing. You're doing multi-level marketing. Don't you know that's a pyramid scheme? Don't you know that's a scam? They're very easily swayed by the opinions of others, and often people they love, and the dreams are snatched away. Just as quickly as they land, it's the first test of rejection, the first person they love that says, are you sure? And boom. Birds pick up the seed and take them off, and you never see them again. And I want you guys to think about this as you're sitting with this, because I've asked you to evaluate yourself. And when we're going through this, I really want you to think of what soil you identify with right now. So that's the one where it was the opinions of others that snatched the dream away, okay? The next one is the one that lands on rocky ground. And here's the thing, it still grew. It actually shot up with rapid growth. And it actually, if in the story, in the parable, it actually says it was received with a lot of joy and excitement, and it exploded with eagerness and enthusiasm. But because there was no rooting, because it did not embed itself into rich soil, because there were no roots, it died. And I'm going to call that is the happy hustler. It's somebody that joined. They're like, yeah, sounds great. They might fast start gold. They're those fast start unicorns. They're in for a hot minute. They're excited. They see some wins. They see some success. And then it's just gone. They just disappear. They ghost you. They say they don't want to work their business anymore. And the reason is because they lack foundation. They did not have roots. So you often see success, but it is short-lived. It is short-lived. I really believe this is the seed of the hustler, the one that works real hard, sees growth. But roots require foundational work. And we're going to talk about good soil, but the rocky ground, no roots were because they had beliefs that were not serving them. They did not get rid of bad habits. They did not do the foundational work. They didn't till that soil. It is non-glamorous. Looking at ourselves and seeing stories that we've been carrying our whole lives that limit us, that is not glamorous work. It is actually really hard work to see ourselves as we are, to understand our stories, to own them, to take responsibility for the stories we've been telling ourselves. And the happy hustler doesn't have time for that. They shoot up and it withers and dies. Okay, the next one is the one that lands among the thorns. And again, this one grows too, albeit slowly, but eventually the growth is completely choked out by the weeds. And I'm going to call it is the weeds of obligation. It is the weeds of life's normal distractions. My 9 to 5, the kids are e-learning. We got something else coming up. You know what? We're traveling. Now's a bad time. This is the one that grows in convenience, in seasons of convenience. I didn't say this about the rocky ground, but that one grows in a season of urgency. I have to meet my needs. Oh no, I have to make this work. I'm desperate. Okay, so that's why it shoots up, has no foundation, and dies. The thorns, it only grows in seasons of convenience, and eventually the responsibilities and the obligations they feel to their life is what chokes them out from working that business. I want you to notice that. It's things that feel responsible. It's the one that grows in convenience, and their growth eventually stunts. They stunt their growth, and eventually the weeds choke it out and they stop. They're not multiplying. They might even be standing there alone, but it's not multiplying. It's not growing. It's not yielding a plentiful crop. The last one is the good soil. The good soil is where it's received and it bears fruit in patience. Patience is the key. A lot of people are not patient in this industry. I think we forgot about the 4-year career. You bought into it, but then someone sees that one unicorn girl that hits that top rank in 15 months, and we suddenly forget about the 4-year path. We suddenly forget that we're in this for 5 or 6 years. And suddenly we start questioning, why is it happening for her and not for me? Why is it fast forward? What does she have that I don't? We start to have stories about why we deserve to have that too. And anytime we bring entitlement to our business, that is a weed you need to weed out. It will choke your growth. It will stunt your growth. It bears fruit in time and patience, and it yields triple what was sown. So what makes good soil? I think you guys are going to appreciate this because you guys talk about this with your products. What do you have to do for good soil? Weed, seed, feed, and protect. We're going to talk about that in regards to your soil. If you want good soil, if you want your business to grow, you're going to have to do these things. Step 1 is weeding. You have to get rid of those weeds. And have you ever noticed that weeds grow without even trying? I don't know if they just grow. They need no nurture whatsoever. They're there, right? Whereas a beautiful, I've been trying to grow a stupid peonies bush for 5 years, and I've had one bud, and weeds are aplenty. Your negative thoughts are no different. Your beliefs, your excuses are no different. They will always be there. It is the natural law of things. You have to weed out beliefs that do not serve you. I don't have value. I don't know how to do this. I'm not a leader. I don't know how to show up on social media. Beliefs. None of them are serving you. Excuses. If I had more time, If I had more resources, if my kids weren't in school, listen, we all have excuses. We all could have them. I want you to notice that, like every time there's every season of your business, there's going to be an excuse that's really easy to take and run with. But you have to remove distractions. You have to remove habits that aren't serving you, and you have to remove negative thoughts. And by the way, this isn't like you never weed a garden once, right? You have to do it all the time. And I think we forget that. And I notice people have a lot of judgment and shame on themselves when they notice down the road, even with a plentiful, beautiful garden, when a weed shows up. A weed will always be there. You can have the most beautiful garden in the world, and weeds will still find its way there, because that is a natural law of things. Your negative thoughts, your beliefs, what happens up here, your brain's always going to offer you garbage. It's just you have to learn to consciously be aware of it. Listen, 80% of your habits in a day is driven by subconscious thoughts you don't even know you're thinking. So you have to start looking at your actions and think to yourself, what is driving me to this behavior? What thought am I entertaining and believing as truth? You have to stop believing all of your thoughts to be truth or facts. That is the most detrimental thing you can do. If you really want to learn to weed out some things that are choking out your garden and really preventing growth, I want you to ask every time you have a thought, whether it's like, she has something I don't, I'm not a good leader, it's not working. I love this one. Everyone's like, it's not working. I'm posting, Kristen, I'm doing all the things and it's not working. And most people don't challenge that thought. They just assume that it's true. How often would you look at a garden after you've planted the seed and think it's not working? Something's wrong, it's not working. It takes time. It takes time for a seed to germinate and sprout. But we're so anxious for the harvest, especially in this business. We're so anxious for that. We want to force the growth. And where's my harvest? And we look over at our neighbors' crops and we're like, why are they harvesting? Where's my harvest? Something's wrong. And what do? We start questioning the seeds we sow. We go out to the field and we dig them all up. We think, I must have planted the wrong seed. I'm going to have to plant the seed all over again. And then what happens? Same thing. We're waiting. Where is the seeds? Where's the growth? Where is it? We're still looking. We're looking everywhere because you're comparing. Comparison is the fastest way to let weeds in your garden. Comparison is the fastest way to bring weeds in your garden. And so I see a lot of people tearing up the crops, tearing up the seeds that they've sown because they weren't patient enough to see it yield. When really it just took a lot. You just had to go back out and water it. You just had to keep caring for it and exercising patience and trusting that it's working, okay? So you have to weed. We have to do seeds and then seeding. This is like, what seeds are you planting? Are you planting seeds of belief? Are you planting seeds of doubt? Are you planting seeds of bitterness, of resentment, of entitlement? I've done this for 5 years. It should have worked by now. Seeds of entitlement. My upline isn't as supportive as I want her to be. Seeds of bitterness. My downline isn't working. Seeds of bitterness, resentment. If you want to understand what seeds you are planting, look at the fruit that you are growing. And I realize this is hard to hear, but you want to learn how to have a healthy, vibrant garden, you have to start looking at the seeds you're sowing. And they start so small, don't they? Seeds are small. They're not these, we don't bury these huge things. It's sneaky. The seeds we allow are so small. And it comes in the form of like, just having that one thought about that person. And honestly, a lot of seeds look like gossip in this industry. I want you to start asking yourself, do I want to plant that seed in my garden? Because it will bear fruit. Good seeds bear fruit, so do bad. So you have to start being very vigilant That's going to go in the protecting part. Be very selective of the seeds you allow yourself to plant in your garden. So seeds of belief, of commitment, of confidence, of authenticity, of service, of love, of humility, of gentleness, of kindness, and then trust. You have to trust that in due time, the seeds will yield fruit. And you still have to go out every day and weed that garden, especially during the seedling season. During the seedlings are the most vulnerable time, and that's when I see people letting weeds just choke everything out because it's not happening fast enough. I thought it would have worked by now. Right? Am I reading your guys' mail? I know I've been coaching this industry for a long time. I know what thoughts come up for you guys. No matter what company you're in, no matter what rank you are, this is what happens. Okay? So then in the seeding, what are you planting? Evaluate the seed. Feeding, what are you consuming? How are you treating that soil? What are you allowing in? How are you investing in yourself? Who are you listening to? Who are you surrounding yourself with? Are you surrounding yourself with complainers? Or are you surrounding yourself with people who are committed and take responsibility? Complainers, it's everybody else's fault. Leaders, they're always looking at themselves, being like, this is what I need to do. This is what I need to take ownership in. This is what I need to have responsibility in. You are the sum of the 5 people you surround yourself with. So start evaluating, do I like those conversations of those 5 people I'm in all the time? Is this who I want to be? Is this how I want to surround myself with these types of people? You have choice. You get choice in this. You could just say, you know what? And by the way, if somebody is starting to come to you with negativity, you don't have to be unkind and be like, hey, I don't want your negative, toxic thing here. Walk the other way. See that reel? Like, see that toxic person over there? Walk the other way, right? You don't have to say, hey, you're being a toxic person right now. You could just say, hey, I'd love to hear about what's working for you. I'd love to hear how I can encourage you. I'd love to hear what you're thankful for. I'd love to hear how I can come alongside of you. I'm really working on, and you can just be honest, be like, you know what? I'm working so hard on finding contentment and trusting my process. And when I'm hearing this, I start to lose belief. Like maybe just for now, I'm not the person you complain to because I really need to just protect my belief right now. And if someone doesn't like that boundary, it says more about the person who doesn't like your boundary than the person who is setting the boundary. Setting boundaries is healthy. Unhealthy people do not like boundaries. So I just want to give you, like, if you want your garden to thrive, you got to put up boundaries, healthy ones, but you got to put up boundaries for your mindset, for who you surround yourself with, your habits, your routines, putting boundaries on your work hours, right? And then protect. You need to protect your garden. You need to protect from outside sources influencing. And I think, again, I really think like gossip, jealousy, comparison, negative talk, complaining. Here's my challenge for you is this week, I want you to catch yourself every time you hear yourself complaining when it comes to your business. And just notice it. I'm not asking you to beat yourself up, but it's so easy to complain. It's so easy for us to focus on everything that's not working in our favor, because when we're doing that, we're not noticing everything that is working in our favor, everything that is working for us. So I just want you to notice this week as you go about, be like, ooh, and at the end of the week, what's today? Is today Monday? Yeah. At the end of the week, I just want you to have an honest sit down with you and be like, with yourself and be like, oh shoot, I have 15 tally marks complaining about my business this week. And ask yourself, how did that serve me? Did it serve me? And how do I want to change this moving forward? So on that note, I was going to say there's this really important season with with farming and with rotating crops and all this that goes with this. And it's not a season we talk about a lot, because we talk about sowing the seed and watering it and then harvesting, right? What we don't talk about is the season where the soil rests. We don't talk about the season, what I'm going to call, actually, I can't call it this. I heard it from Kate Northrup. I think she calls it the fertile void. And it's when we are not actively producing. When we are not actively sowing the seeds, it doesn't look like a glamorous time, but every crop has to go through it to allow the soil to rest, to make sure it is rich soil, it is good soil. Do you guys remember what happened in the Dust Bowl? I think in the 30s? I can't remember. My grandmother went through it in Iowa. And the reason why that happened is because the farmers weren't rotating their crops. It wasn't allowing the soil to rest. And it causes this massive dust storm that was actually catastrophic to farming in the surrounding areas. So while rest might feel counterintuitive, especially, it's really important you hear this, if you are in the fertile void season where your soil is resting and you're about to go out and sow seeds, it's really important you don't look over at somebody else in their season of harvest, because their timing is different than yours. And the fertile void is really important. And maybe that's when you're working on yourself and you're starting to own your stories and you're starting to work on your beliefs. And you're working on loving people and serving your team and working on systems and customer care and support. And often in fertile voids, that's not where recognition is happening. That's not where you're hitting leaderboards and crushing it. It doesn't feel glamorous. But it doesn't mean something's wrong with you. It just means you are being prepared for the season of sowing. Don't stay there. Don't decide, guess my crop's dead. It's not worth me going after. Forget it. I'm not going to do anything anymore. It's like, hey, honor your season. Acknowledge where you are. Are you in the season of sowing? Are you having to rebuild a team? Are you in the season of trusting? Like, you've sown the seeds and now you're like, okay, this is hard for me, but I'm going to keep showing up every day on social media, every day. In the academy, I teach this. A lot of people, they're learning to add value and trust the process. And I tell them, hey, it's going to feel really hard at first, because it's going to feel like your brain is going to tell you nothing's working, because there is the unseen. There is the seen and the unseen. And so much of this business is the unseen. And I can tell you that because for a year, my fruits were unseen and I kept going for a year. And most people would have been like, forget that. Forget that. I'm not staying. But here's the thing. If you keep going, I promise you fruit will be in store. But mind the seed you were sowing with. I was always sowing seeds of belief, service, commitment, love, generosity, abundance. I was always sowing those seeds, and I was weeding out anybody that had a naysay it to me. I was like, nope, not gonna hear it. We could talk about the weather. Heck, we could talk about politics, but we sure as heck are not talking about my business, because I am protecting the infancy of this. And some of you need to be in that season. Surround yourself with people who believe in you and are doing the same, and that are doing the hard things, right? But again, a lot of this business is the unseen. And here's the crazy thing. In the academy, it's so funny. When people are learning to put value out there and be consistent and do the process I teach, it's funny. Most of them see results in 30 days. And the first result they see is increased engagement, by 300% on Instagram. They're like, oh my gosh, my engagement's up by 300%. I'm like, funny, right? It actually works. And then it's engagement first, then followed by sales. And it happens every time. They're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I woke up to sales. I'm like, I know, it's a good thing you trusted the process. But oftentimes as a coach, I'm literally restraining people who want to go out into the field, tear up all the seeds they sow and try something else and do a different strategy because they lost belief in the process. So you have to be faithful to sow the seed, understanding that when you do sow the seed, so I just talked to you guys about you being the soil. I want you to think about your social media platform and how you are sowing the seeds. You don't know where it's going to land. And you're going to probably have leaders that have, or people that have joined you, and you can notice all the soils that you've sown the seeds on. And you can choose to feel sad and pout about the people that were the seeds on the path that got their dreams got snatched away after posting for a week, and they decided, I don't want to do this. This is too scary. This is too hard. And you can sit there and be like, oh my gosh, this is the worst thing ever. Or you can put your focus on like, okay, who's in the good soil, and how can I cultivate that? And how can I come alongside them? And how can I help them lead? And how can I help them grow? It's all about where you choose to put your focus. And just understanding, be faithful in the sowing. Sow the seeds. You never know where it's going to scatter. Sometimes it's going to land on the path, the thorns, the rocky soil, and sometimes on the good soil. But you have to sow a lot of seeds, right? You can't just be like, oh, a couple seeds here, a couple seeds here. This is why being generous and showing up every day on your social media, serving people and asking yourself, how can I give to my audience today? How can I make their day better? What's a helpful tip I can give them? That is sowing seeds. So I want you to think of that this week. Again, evaluate. How often are you complaining? What do you need to weed in your life? What seeds are you sowing? How do you want to feed and care for yourself to ensure that it is good and plentiful fruit? And how do you want to protect that garden? Ask yourself that, because you are responsible. You are the gardener for your own garden. Can't be going to your upline and being like, hey, my garden looks like crap because you're not in here doing it for me. Don't do that, right? And you can't tell other people, like your downline, being like, hey, come fix my garden. Take full responsibility. If you do that, I promise you your business is going to flourish. Okay. So you are always, on that note, just with soil, you are first responsible for your own. What you plant here, always comes out here with how you serve and how you show up. Look at your actions. It comes from here and here, right? Be responsible to yourself first. And then as a leader, secondly, I know I told you guys to not think about anybody else, but I also want you to assume responsibility for your team. Whoever has said yes to you, assume responsibility. Instead of being like, well, if they wanted it, they'd show up. I want you to think of, what if they do want it, and it is partly my responsibility to help them show up. I, as a coach, I'm always believing that people want change. I'm always believing that people want to have their businesses flourish, even if I see actions that might not reinforce that, where I'm like I could look at things and be like, why isn't she posting? Why isn't she doing that? Why isn't she doing? But as a coach, I don't decide she doesn't want it. I assume, okay, she does want it, but something's getting in the way, and how might I serve in such a way where she is compelled to take action? I want you to think about that as a leader. I want you to think about that instead of thinking, if they wanted it, they'd show up for themselves. No one helped me. She's got to show up for herself. Instead of thinking, well, if I was responsible, what would I do? How might I serve? If she does want this, but the actions aren't following suit, what might I say in encouragement to spur her on or spur them on to encouragement? Realize you might have dudes on your team, right? How might I spur them on to do the things, right? This is what radical ownership and leadership looks like. This is what building on really firm foundation is all about. Okay, that's all I have. Julia, do you have any last things you want me to cover, talk about, expand on? I haven't even looked at the chat, but I hope this was encouraging to you guys in understanding the natural seasons of this business.
No, I mean, that was a lot. I don't know if y'all took like 3 pages of notes, and I'm not a note taker.
Y'all are gonna watch the recording.
I think she took all that from our personal one-on-one coaching, I think. So, no, this is great. Okay, you might hate me for asking this, but if I was just on here by myself with you, this is what I would ask. Because I love, and we've talked a little bit about assume responsibility for your team. And that's a tricky thing, because it's like, we always say you can take the horse to water, but you can't make them drink. What are some, and because our business, what are some action steps? Like, if really we have those people on our team who are like, oh, I want it. but it's like we just can't get them moving. Like what is your like practical action steps? Do you have anything for us to help lead them without dragging them?
Yeah, I think if they're saying, I want it, I want it, I want it, I think our first responsibility is to get clear on what that means to them. And we have to ask, because we have an idea of what we think that looks like, and just asking them, hey, so when you say you really want it, tell me what that looks like to you so I can meet you there. Start there. And then if they tell you and you're still not seeing what they tell you that they want and what they're actually doing is a mismatch, then you can actually say to them, being like, hey, I really want to support you. I really want to help you. This is what you said you wanted and needed. But I'm also like, and we talked about the steps that it takes to actually have that. What's coming up for you? What's in the way of that? But here's the thing. I have this thing where I believe as a coach, we call it, it's the impossible standard, but I think it's actually really good for everybody, especially in this industry, is what would it be like to assume everything is the equation of 100, 100. That in order for someone to show up in their business, it is 100% my responsibility as a coach, or you as an upline, and is 100% their responsibility as a downline. We are not in control of that, but we are absolutely, I think too often I see people thinking this is a 50-50 game, when really it's like, and when we do that, we don't creatively problem solve as if it was 100% our responsibility. So for me as a coach, I know that people can say, I really want to do this business. I know that they can say those things to me. And I also know they have a human mind that has weeds, and they operate from a subconscious brain that they aren't fully aware of. And I know they're going to have a lot of limitations and blocks and stories, which is why coaching is so important. I can literally give you a list and say, here is every A to Z, everything you need to know to get to 6 figures in this business. And what do you think is going to happen? You're still going to have problems because you have a human brain that is designed to protect you and keep you from anything that's scary. You have stories that you're going to interpret. Okay, so as a coach, I never choose the story. If they want it, they would do it. I always problem solve from the place. If I was fully responsible for their results, if I was 100% responsible for them getting 100% results, how might I need to show up and what might I need to create from that place? And I realized that I cannot make them have 100% results, but forcing my brain to solve from that place is what allows for creative thought. And as soon as you guys say, like, I can lead a horse to water, I can't make them drink, you're actually shutting down the creative problem solving part of your brain to think, what if they actually did want it? And what could I create to ensure that happens? And as long as you creatively problem solve from that place, you can at least know that you as a coach took 100% responsibility, or as an upline, you took 100% responsibility to problem solve as if 100% of their results was on you. And your brain is designed to not like that, because your brain operates in 3 areas. It wants to conserve energy, seek pleasure, and avoid pain. The number 1 is conserve energy. To problem solve this, your brain is going to fight you all day and be like, oh, it's so hard. It's hard to problem solve. This is why, this is why people love Google, right? Because if we want a quick answer, we just Google. That conserves energy. Your brain's always looking for a shortcut because it processes a billion things a day. So if it comes to doing the legwork to problem solve, your brain is not going to seek that out on its own. This is what will define you as a leader. This is the standard I make as a coach, being like, if I believed every student in my academy, if I had to ensure 100% results for every single student, what might I need to create? Right? Let's see here. I'll check the comments here. Resting is good. We shouldn't stay there. How long is too long? It's not about like taking this long, luxurious break and going to hibernation. It's about implementing and planning rest. If you're wanting to rest for 3 months, This tells me that you didn't plan or prioritize rest as a rhythm in your life, as a daily thing. Rest, I kind of view it like, I don't know how to describe it. It's like sugar. Let's say if we detox from sugar, right? And then we're like, all we think about is like, oh, sugar, right? And we go without it for a really long time. And then when we finally have it, we want to like binge on it. We want to be very luxurious with it. We just want to indulge. That's what we want to do. We want to indulge. So if you are finding yourself indulging in rest, it is likely because you have not given yourself permission to have rests along the way, along your daily life. I want you to think about that. That's funny. Perhaps my horse likes flavored water. Okay. Is there anything else you want to ask me, Julia? This is a good question. At what point do you bless and release? I think you have to ask yourself back, it goes back to this. Have I creatively problem solved for me creating 100% responsibility for this person? And have I served them well? And if they've disappeared, don't chase them. Don't do that. But if you can say like, yep, I did everything to solve for that, and then the rest truly is on them, and that's okay. But as long as you start here, this is the standard. That's my standard for me.
I think Jessica has a good, it's a Plexus question. What's most beneficial from being there and being guides for others? I feel like there's so much, and I think this is a common question. Sometimes I don't know where to start. I don't want to overwhelm them with threads, groups. I know what she's saying, team pages, challenges, back office learning, posting, trainings. What's the best way to go about that and keep them in it?
I think especially if this is someone that's brand new to the business, I want you to think of like, oftentimes we get overexcited and we get overwhelmed and we think of like, we think of all the things, but I really want you to ask yourself, what do they need to help them make their first $100 in the business? And if you cut out anything excess. Like, do they actually need to be to watch all those trainings? Nope. Do they actually need this? Nope. Do they actually like what guarantees their success? The first step. Like, it's one step at a time, and it's not overwhelming them with too much information. And honestly, our brain, it's very hard to simplify the complex, to boil it down and be like, what is absolutely essential? So I would encourage you to ask yourself, what is essential? When they get started, what is essential that reduces the overwhelm? And if you want to just do market research, ask a couple people who onboarded with you most recently and say, hey, tell me how your experience was when you first joined. Were you overwhelmed? What was most helpful? What just made you confused? Right? Those people are going to be the most helpful to you because it's the most fresh on their mind. Right? So even for me in my academy, I'm always thinking of like, how can I make the onboarding better? How can I make it more simple? I'm always asking myself, how can I make it more simple? How can I make it more simple? So I want you guys, that should be your filter for yourself. Like, what's the most simple that guarantees the first mark of success for them? And start there. Yeah, but there's no formula. I think it's really important you guys know, like, there's not like formula. I think it really does require you just to trust yourself and be like, how can I meet this person where they are and get them to just the next right step? It's funny. My kids are listening to Frozen 2 up there, and I actually think I hear the song, The Next Right Thing. Like, what is the next right thing? Anything else, Julia?
I think this is good. I think this is perfect, and we thank you so much for sharing with us. Erin said, be a person, have conversations. Y'all, if I quote Kristen, my number one quote from you, Kristen, I know we talked about you not liking being human, but I say, just be a person. Just talk to someone. Just be a person.
Yeah. Oh, and then I'll tell them about the Academy real quick. So a lot of you guys have heard about the Academy. Maybe you don't know about it. It is a lifetime coaching program with me where you learn how to write copy. You learn organic marketing. You learn how to show up consistently. You learn how to get out of your own way. You actually have all the materials you need to show up consistently in your business to get results, so that you can stop going on that magical strategy unicorn hunt and switching from this thing to that thing. It's all about consistency and sustainable business in there. When I first launched the Academy, I'm like, yeah, you can have results in 60 days. People see results their first week in there. They see results implementing their first copywriting post. They see results just on one coaching call. It is live coaching with me. I train on your thoughts. I train on the Life Coach School, the model, so that you understand how your thoughts create actions in your business and the results you want or don't want. It is lifetime. You pay once, it's $1,000. So it's not this membership thing. And I designed it that way because I want you to make your decision once about your business, so that you're not revisiting it every month, being like, oh no. You get in there, you get all of your materials. There is so much in there. There's like 3 workbooks, 15 modules, weekly live coaching, and a private member podcast. So if you can't make the coaching calls, you can listen to me coach people who have questions just like you. All of your questions you answer, we cover inside the Academy. It's lifetime. You can go to thesocialsellingacademy.com.
Thank you, Kristen. So,
All right.
bye, y'all.
Bye, everybody.